Boots, look out, because for those of you with a benefit of flash photography and or screenshotting, we come to you with a male soap opera moment, the near perfect podcast for wrestling fans and story lovers alike. For the past 4 years, we have been joined by the one, the only, the wrestling encyclopedia, Vincent Kennedy Bucci.
Yes, and usually, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the show where I would be, gloating and celebrating and, being a boastful self. But I got to be honest with you. I have never had a pay-per-view take the wind out of my sails the way this pay-per-view did. The fact that there are not holes in the wall of the studio is amazing. I have been getting phone calls off the hook asking if my mental state is in check. For 8 days, it wasn't, but we will get into all of that on the show. But let's just say I feel like I'm having PTSD flashbacks as we talk about this. I got to be honest. I've never been more pissed at a pay-per-view in my life.
Listen, let's just get right to it, man. Yeah. This is the lead. Let's not bury it.
Oh, I'm not going to bury anything.
In my view, just because Bobby Lashley has been waiting 17 years does not mean that he deserved a title shot on his watch. The Miz was actually very kind to grant Bobby Lashley a title shot, considering the state of his physical health. I mean, stomach aches are no joke. Tummy aches, Booch. Wow. You don't want to mess with those in a professional environment.
Oh, yeah. It's not like we have anything. It's not like we have anything called Tums or Alka-Seltzer to clear that up within 3 hours.
But the drug testing rules, it can get tricky. What's in his system. I mean, he's a near perfect specimen. You don't want to mess that up. And not to mention, he's thrown to the lumberjacks. God knows what those thugs did to him in their masks. They probably poked and prod his liver and spleen and everything in between, and left him in the ring to just be destroyed by the Hurt Lock.
Yes, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd seen in wrestling. It was like an 8-day, the biggest mistake in the history of wrestling was corrected.
Was that intentional? Did you say Miz instead of Miss?
Why, yes, I did.
I, in hindsight, can understand why WWE did what they did to some degree, but at the cost of the Miz's physical health, his mental health, and not to mention how his child sees him now after what they witnessed.
First of all, his kids are not going to be old enough to even remember this.
There's DVR boots and DVDs and Blu-ray and 8 tracks and all this upcoming technology.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, but I doubt most kids, very few times do kids want to look at what their dad does. Some do, some don't, so it depends,
Star Wars is one of those examples that every father and son or daughter can relate to.
Exactly. Yeah. They usually bond. Star Wars is a way they kind of bond with, but I'm sure even like if Mark Hamill has kids, they're like, this again, like, they probably, they might get annoyed with it, but like, the cast, but actual fans, they grow up with it. I'm talking about specifically their kids. They don't want to watch that over and over again.
Oh, for sure. And although episodes 1, 2, and 3 have great stories, Jar Jar Binks, I just want to strangle that Gungan. But we digress. Let's get back to the squared circle.
Yes.
Elimination Chamber began the groundwork and framework for this ongoing saga, The Miz. This one goes out to you, buddy. I hope you can recover quickly and get back to your championship form in no time. And so does John Morrison, by the way, if you weren't familiar.
Absolutely.
But Elimination Chamber, Booch, I wanted to text or call you, but I also thought you would have thought I was patronizing you. So I left you alone.
I appreciate that. Was the smart thing to do. Other people did not follow your logic and were shocked that I would be angry. I'm like, I'm not in my right state of mind after this pay-per-view. So there were people that just wanted to throw gasoline on the fire, and then they got mad that I yelled at them, but I give them the same answer I get to everybody. You can't go into the woods and poke a bear with a stick and then get mad when the bear turns around and rips your face off. What did you think the bear was going to do? So everybody's like, I can't believe Vinny called me all these horrible names. What the fuck you think I was gonna do?
Not safe for work. Not safe for work.
It's
We
not
put
safe
that
for work.
disclosure right after the cuss word here on the show.
Exactly. Sorry.
That's how we roll.
Yeah,
Booch, let's recap Elimination
Sure.
Chamber. I thought it was a really good pay-per-view all in all. I'd probably give it like a B minus, something like that. I love the Money in the Bank cash in. We learned the details of what actually happened between the Hurt Business and the Mrs. Camp. Earlier in the night, there was a quick pan to them having a discussion. We thought, what's going on here? We weren't sure, but we saw it play out in front of us. And it was excellently executed, even without the Hitman being there.
Yeah. And I don't know if it would have been worse or not with the Hitman being there, but just I will say this, like, I'm happy that Bobby Lashley is finally the WWE champion and everything, but
well deserved. In all seriousness, well deserved. Yes.
But I would have liked it better if they had just built something up to where it was. I'd rather see Bobby Lashley beat the crap out of Drew McIntyre in like deciding fashion between two badasses to win the title than have to go through this transition of Bobby Lashley beats up Drew McIntyre. The man who shouldn't have had the briefcase to begin with, cash it in, win in like 30 seconds. Although I like the fact that they at least gave Drew a fighting chance somewhat. They didn't make it a full-blown squash, which I noticed WWE does a lot of that lately, where they're kind of giving that hope, which I give them credit for that. And then Miz wins this title, holds it for 8 unnecessary days, only for Bobby Lashley to dominate, beat the Miz. Now we got to have this transition. It's like, to me, the whole thing was stupid. And it was a waste. It was a waste of time. It was like somebody's like, oh, there's a restaurant down the street and you can drive down this road, but instead of going down the road, he takes a bunch of rights and lefts, and it's like taking the scenic route to get to a restaurant that's 5 minutes from your house.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to take the scenic route home. That's for sure. After eating out anywhere.
Exactly. Especially fast food. I love fast food, but you want to be home fast.
Goes right through you.
Oh yeah. But it was weird because the Elimination Chamber match was actually great.
Yeah.
I thought it was very well done. I liked having Omos get kicked out. I thought that was brilliant. I loved I was shocked that they got rid of Randy so fast.
Yeah, me too.
He hits a couple RKOs. Kofi just rolls him up and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why that happened. I was shocked. So I thought that was fantastic. And then, of course, there was the cash and everything. But before that, Drew McIntyre really established himself in that chamber.
I agree.
He was one of the first two in and managed to survive all of it.
And as a champion, that's what you have to do at the time, and so that was a match that favored the WWE universe. To me, we all kind of understood what the end in the long game was with Roman Reigns. He's not going to lose that championship anytime soon. No. And this ongoing thing with Daniel Bryan is intriguing on some level as a fan, but you also understand that the 4-time champ is not going to win a 5th tenure as WWE champion. And it's somewhat frustrating, but I'm also kind of intrigued by him coming out and saying, I'm not going to be on the back burner anymore. I'm looking out for me. All the while, he's just playing the part to progress Roman Reigns to Mania.
Yeah, well, and right now that's where he needs to be. Because Daniel hasn't been doing much. And also, you got to take into account Edge is getting a title shot at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I would not want to put the belt on Daniel Bryan right now, as much as some fans would want to see it, because what would be the point in having Daniel Bryan take the belt from Roman Reigns at FastLane? And obviously we're going to talk about FastLane in the next episode. What would be the point of him taking the belt there only to drop it to Edge at Mania? I would rather just have the head of the table take out Daniel Bryan, go to Mania, have Edge beat him, and win the title. Because it's blatantly obvious Edge is walking out at WrestleMania with that title. Oh
my gosh, yes. 100%, Booch. Let's just go ahead and put that prediction in the books right now. We'll save us 2 minutes of a prediction on the next show.
Exactly.
I mean, Edge has all of the momentum behind him, and that's going to continue as we move toward 37.
Yeah.
And this storyline is intriguing to me, because here you have Daniel Bryan saying, hey, Edge hasn't been doing much recently. And it's kind of him deflecting from the reality that he finds himself in that you just pointed out.
Yeah. And the thing is that what you want to do with Daniel is you want to build him back to, prominence. You want to build him back to where you can take it seriously, and then maybe have him down the road be the guy that takes the belt off of Edge.
Yeah, I foresee a triple threat match at Backlash.
Ooh, yeah, that could be it. That could work. And the triple threat would be good because then Edge could pin Roman again. That doesn't hurt Daniel.
Yeah, nobody loses his face. Yep.
Yeah, and then Daniel can go on to the next one. But yeah, you want to they got to build Daniel back up again before they have him take a belt off of anybody. But it would not make sense. The only satisfaction you would get out of it is with Daniel and Edge, you would get a great match. But the finish would not help Daniel at all. So unless you're one of those wrestling fans that's like, I just want to see a great match, you ain't going to enjoy it.
Right.
This is one of the things that I always get in debates with people about all the time is that to me, the match can be amazing. If the finish sucks, the match sucks. Like, because that's what you remember the most. It's like watching a movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to debate that, but I think we've all seen matches where we didn't like the finish, as in a double count out. If you're Daniel Bryan this last week and, you didn't exactly earn that shot that you thought you were going to get. And to me, it's like the meat of the match can be amazing, but you do remember the screw job at the end or the outcome that doesn't favor, your favorite guy in the ring. So I see what you're saying. I think there's power and truth in it. I'm really excited to continue on this path we're on, talking about the chamber, what happened. Obviously, Daniel Bryan earned a shot. He gave the best to Cesaro, Uso, KO, Corbin, and Zayn. The match itself, like you said, Booch, was great. It was over 34 minutes long, obviously the longest match of the night, even for shadowing the SmackDown version. So for me, the other match that really gets me going, moving toward Mania, is the Nia Jax Baszler beating Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. I'm so excited about Bianca Belair, the EST of WWE. I think her and Sasha Banks squaring off at Mania, especially since Banks was the one that approached her and said, if you want to start your legacy, you better choose me. That's really powerful. And it's really cool because, there's some tag team camaraderie here as well. How do you see this playing out as we move toward 37?
Well, that's the interesting thing is that they're doing very well as a tag team. And obviously, as we already know, Bianca picks Sasha Banks. So it will be them at Mania. And I think this can go. I mean, we could see a situation where they win the tag belts and they're facing each other as the tag team champions, which is not uncommon because that happened between John Cena and Shawn Michaels.
Oh, nice callback. The encyclopedia. Drop that.
When they main evented WrestleMania 23, I think it was either the Go Home Raw or the Raw before, Cena and Michaels won the tag team titles. So they went into WrestleMania as the tag team champions fighting each other for the title. Now, they didn't walk out with the tag team belts. They left them in the back, but they were the tag team champions going into that match. And then they eventually, I think the next night on Raw, they lost the titles because Shawn turned on Cena to basically say, I'm done with this. I just want the WWE title now. So, but yeah, so it wouldn't shock me if they won the tag belts and came out together, because I know they're getting another shot at FastLane. My only issue is that recently Nia and Shayna were in NXT and they fought Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, who won the first ever women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. For those of you that aren't familiar, how the Dusty Rhodes, basically every year with the guys, they would have either legit tag teams or just random guys thrown together in a team, and they have a tag title tournament, and the winner would either get a Dusty Cup or a shot at the tag titles or whatever. They decided to add a women's tournament this year and decided to give them a shot against Nia and Shayna, and they just had them beat them on a random episode of NXT, which pissed me off because I was like, they could have dragged this out to the next NXT takeover, because as far as I'm concerned, they should drop the belts to Dakota and Raquel instead of dropping them Bianca and Sasha, because they don't need it. And with them already in a feud, I think it's stupid. My personal opinion, it's stupid to put tag belts on them. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, like I said, it would logically it's been done before, but I personally wouldn't like it because I think, I like to see the NXT girls win it just so they can get more airtime. Because I feel like it benefits them more than it benefits two people who are already in the spotlight. So why are they still having this feud? It makes no sense.
So I think it's a good point. I think what they're doing is they're planting the seed for years down the line as Sasha Banks, and she's nowhere close to the twilight of her career, but she'll be at the twilight close sooner than Bianca will.
Yes.
So I think what they're doing is planting seeds, planting a foundation for the future in case these two end up being like a rock and sock connection, so to speak, down the line. And then they can cite that history and say, there's chemistry here. Look, at the time, Sasha was on top of her game. She was women's champion, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a cool thing to do. I don't think they're going to stick with it long. I think it's a smokescreen.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think there are other deserving parties at hand here. But you know how WWE rolls. They just do things that sometimes are unnecessarily complicated, and it does backfire. Booch, there was a match at Elimination Chamber that I was right on, and I think you somewhat scoffed at me. And here we are, 13 days later, and the United States champion Riddle reigns. I love this guy. He's the original bro. And I honestly can't understand why you or anybody else on God's green earth doesn't like this guy.
I mean, I've mentioned it before, but I can go down the list again if you'd like.
Sure, for the sake of those with speakers and or earbuds.
Okay, first of all, the original bro gimmick done already. Okay,
not originally though.
Bro. Yeah, the original bro. I'm sorry, it started with you. I believe we had hype bros earlier. I've seen plenty of guys try to be the bro thing before. So how are you the original and you ain't the first one? That don't make no sense. Second of all, it's a minor thing, but I'll throw it in there. You're not Jimmy Snuka. Put on some goddamn boots. Number two. Number three, the guy, his whole gimmick is cheesy and stupid. He's basically like a surfer douche. I hate gimmicks like that. It's annoying. It's like, I am a person that believes in legalization of marijuana. Then I see Matt Riddle and go, oh, this is why it's illegal. He annoys me that much. And the worst part about it is he clout chases, and I hate that crap. Clout chasing to me is stupid. This is a guy who disrespects certain legends in the business because he's trying to get attention on Twitter to try to build rivalries with people who A, will never work with him, and B, are never going to do a job for him. Brock Lesnar is never jobbing for Matt Riddle.
Brock Lesnar's never doing anything in WWE again. They pulled all his merch. We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Goldberg, definitely not jobbing to this guy. In fact, this might be the one person Goldberg actually wants to hurt in a ring. He is the most annoying superstar in the world. And look, if you're in a rivalry with somebody who's a legend or an icon and you're talking trash about them, it makes sense. You got to build a pay-per-view. You got to build a match. You got to sell tickets. You got to come with it. If you're in a feud with The Undertaker going into WrestleMania, I expect you to badmouth The Undertaker going into WrestleMania. Why? Because you're his opponent. You got to get your heat. You got to build a match. You got to get me to care about this. But if you're never going to have a match with somebody and you're just constantly talking shit on Twitter to a guy who doesn't care about you, doesn't think about you, and when he did have a problem with you, he got in your face and told you, and your bitch ass had to back down. No, I don't respect you. I don't respect you. I don't care that you were a goddamn MMA fighter. Whoop-de-doo. He was a great MMA fighter who threw away his career because he loves weed. And you can't smoke weed and be an MMA fighter because why? It's not legal everywhere. So if you fail a drug test, you don't get to fight. Again, I'm not against marijuana, but Riddle makes me want to be because he's just annoying. He's annoying, he's disrespectful, and I feel like he's a disgrace to the business. Like I said, that's why when you asked me a long time ago, who do I hate more, him or Miz, I said him.
Okay, but all right. What if I were to concede on the gimmick point, right? And I'm sure he even is like, Man, I can do so much more. I mean, Boots, you can't deny his in-ring ability. Like the guy can move inside the ring. He's very talented inside the ring. He can use both his arms and his legs. And honestly, like I think it takes a lot more to wrestle without boots on than it does with boots on because your feet are always protected. This guy's going out there willing to get his feet stomped, stepped on, stub his toe. I mean, come on, it's like running on rocky beaches out there. And another thing, the surfer douche, the bro thing, it works for him because if you think about it, the generation that's watching now, probably a small fraction of them were around when these other gimmicks were floating. So it does make sense in sense of like, okay, people that are our age would know better, but the 13-year-old, 15, 16 demographic, they're on that line of like, okay, let's see how he does. And dude, he's good. I know you don't like him, but apart from the gimmick thing, are you arguing that he doesn't belong as champion?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, here's the thing. Is he a great in-ring worker? Yes. But we live in an era in WWE where practically 90% of them are great in-ring workers. But I don't like his attitude. I don't like his disrespectfulness. That's everything to me.
But don't you think the Twitter stuff is by design?
No.
I mean, he's not going rogue. He's not going rogue against, don't you think the WWE story team would be like, dude, you can't send tweets like that out from your character handle without saying, saying the things.
Well, he's had heat with Vince in the past.
Oh, well, bring that to the table then. That's more.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like Vince hasn't liked him for a while. Mostly, then he, and like that's the thing. Vince didn't even like his gimmick for the longest time.
So when was that happening? Like when? Let's talk more about that.
Like pretty much when he got to the main roster, because that's usually when Vince is paying attention to you. Because Triple H kind of focuses on NXT. And then he looks at certain people and they call him up. And then Vince kind of once you're on the main roster, that's when Vince starts watching you, starts looking at you, or really paying attention to you. Like before that, he's just hearing stuff from Triple H, whose judgment he trusts. Then he actually starts seeing you. So at first, he wasn't a fan of Riddle. He was willing to give him more time because Triple H was pushing for him. But yeah, he had heat with Vince for a while. He didn't like his gimmick. He didn't like his attitude. Didn't like a lot of things. He's somewhat tightened up on it. And I think Vince has a lot to do with that. But every now and then, Matt Riddle throws out like a couple things because he's just a prick. Like you're going after somebody who doesn't talk about, if you're talking shit about somebody constantly who isn't responding to you, hasn't done anything to you personally, and is never going to work a match with you, you're clout chasing. There's no
right.
So that's why I don't like it. Like I can understand if there was back and forth and whatever, and it was going to build to a story and it was going to make money, and then talk all the shit you want. But when it's not going to go anywhere,
okay,
grow up.
I can respect that. That's a respectable point, Booch. And that's why you are the wrestling encyclopedia. And that's why Riddle is the 13-day. That's so long when you think about it. 13 whole days as champion.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in 13 days, Booch.
Oh, I know. A lot happened in 8 days. So, sorry, I had to say that. But yeah, I will say the triple threat match was good. I didn't like the finish, but the overall match I thought was enjoyable. I do have to make one real quick reference back for a minute. We were talking about the Elimination Chamber with Daniel Bryan. I just want to say, me personally, that was the match of the night. Just gonna say that. But yeah, the U.S. title, like the match was good up until the finish for me. But until the finish, I was enjoying everything. I'm a little upset that Keith Lee's not in this match. I've been hearing different rumors. Some are saying he's injured. If that's the case, then okay. I've heard some people say Vince pulled him out because he's not a big fan of Keith Lee. I have heard.
Let's stop that right there. How can you not be a big fan of Keith Lee?
Exactly. Like apparently he thinks he needs more work. What more work? The guy knows exactly what he's doing. Y'all the guys that took his entrance theme away and tried to put him out there in a soccer short skirt thing that you finally took it off of him. You had him wearing
would be
colors.
Super powerful is Keith Lee joining the Hurt Business.
Oh, they're
I
done.
think they might be doing something here. That's a tepid take. That's this episode's When's World's tepid take, right? I think I think they could be onto something with Keith Lee joining the Hurt Business. Maybe he's taking a vacation before they start this new thing, but that would be a powerful addition. And they also need a women's side of the Hurt Business. Like they're abandoning a lot of share right now, because if you look at the social movements outside of the wrestling ring, they could be capitalizing on a black women's faction like they are with the Hurt Business from a black man's faction, right?
Yeah.
You know, work this angle with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, kind of have MVP pull both of them under his wing and say, look, we know you don't get along, but you're the bedrock behind this. And I need two strong women to hold down the fort for the women's side, and kind of build it as like build it into an NWO-esque.
Yeah. And I know like Bianca
thing.
Belair was somebody we're talking about, but like I said, right now she's on SmackDown, and Bobby Lashley has said they're considering bringing a female into the group.
Hey, listen.
And I think I have an idea on who it could be. Here's an idea. How about this? And I think this will work because we've sung her praises since our first time working together. Naomi.
Yeah, where's she been?
She's been on TV a few times. I think she's on Raw, but
I haven't seen her, but I fall asleep 30 minutes in.
I mean, she's not on all the time. She made a brief return. She made a few sporadic appearances. They haven't really worked her back in the mix, but I think she's still on Raw. Put Naomi in the Hurt Business. I love to see that.
Ooh.
And it works because even though like she doesn't really like over the top express it, you can clearly see that that's a part of her gimmick. She got the fro and everything now. She's
like Soul Sister. It's like Black Panther-ish. Yeah.
Even though she does the feel the glow,
Mhm.
everything about her,
It could work.
exhibits that culture. So yeah, I think Naomi would be a perfect addition to the Hurt Business. I mean, would Bianca Belair be a better choice as far as fan appeal? Yes. But since she's not on Raw, go with Naomi.
But yeah, and that's the thing. You don't have to pull the trigger on that right now if you're WWE. Let's say you do go with that, right? And I think this would be great if they do that. And I love chasing these rabbit holes, Booch. This is my favorite part of the show. Like, we could recap and give our damn opinions about these matches. I like the match. I like that chokehold. Like, but nobody, like, you like it or you didn't. This is the stuff that I want to hear. This is the stuff that we can provide. You with your knowledge and me and my whack job ideas, right? This is something they don't have to pull the trigger on Bianca Belair, the EST of WWE right now. Just have that strong foundation in Naomi. You know, this would be cool. A good thing for Nia Jax to have her as like the anchor weight in that tug of war, you know, on that side of the rope. So for me, there's a lot of different angles. And then down the line, Bianca Belair can join as kind of like somebody that just solidifies the group. But this is something that they should definitely consider pursuing, and think of the merch with this. I mean, Hurt Business, there's so much they could do with this. And on this, let's pivot, man. You know, I saw this thing floating around the World Wide Webs, and apparently, and it's true because I checked for myself, every single article of Brock Lesnar merch has been pulled from WWE. And also, I don't know if you've noticed this, but this dude been posting really interesting stories on Facebook and Instagram recently.
Yeah, which is shocking. I didn't know Brock Lesnar was on social media.
I'm not sure it's him, but I don't know if you've seen the listicles.
Guys. It's probably his guys.
Yeah.
Most celebrities, they have social media managers that post.
Of course.
You know, they have my clients and stuff. Hell, I work for a social media company. I post stuff for clients almost every other day. But what's interesting is I think it's because Brock Lesnar, either his contract expired or they're in a renegotiation process. Because I know that right now, there's two rumors with Brock Lesnar floating around the internet. The first is that him and Lashley are going to collide at WrestleMania. That was the big rumor.
Wow. When are they going to pull the trigger on that? When are they going to start teasing this?
Probably after FastLane, if it's true. They're probably going to wait till after FastLane to address that. Because I'm assuming, because what I would like to see, if this is true, is because people want to see Lashley and McIntyre at Mania. I'd rather put that at FastLane, have those two fight one-on-one at FastLane, have Lashley beat McIntyre, go to Mania, have Lashley face Lesnar, beat Lesnar, and have him dominate for a good period of time before someone takes the belt off of him.
Do you think we'll see Paul Heyman in his corner at Mania?
I don't know. I mean, that would be intriguing, especially if they were backstage.
Because you're going to have MVP at ringside.
Well, yeah, there might be something where maybe if he shows maybe at WrestleMania or maybe at some point there's something happens where maybe there's like a super show where all the brands are together on one show, and maybe Brock's walking backstage and he kind of bumps into Roman, who has Paul with him.
Oh, I
And
like
then there's that
that.
awkward moment where maybe they talk and maybe they consider having Paul maybe go with Brock for that one match. Because
there wasn't like a clear split, right? Like I don't recall there being like a breakdown in the relationship. They just kind of wrote him off the show, and Lesnar became more affiliated with Roman Reigns by the week.
Yes. And basically what happened was they were saying that Paul Heyman was kind of left in the background after Brock got beat by McIntyre. And then Roman kind of picked him up and brought him in. That was what the storyline was. But so that one rumor is them. But another rumor is, I don't know if you know this. Are you familiar with what happened to the Big Show?
He's been in the news recently. What's going on with Big Paul?
He is no longer with WWE.
He's doing stuff with AEW, isn't he?
Signed with AEW.
Okay.
He's now Paul White, his original name, and he's now on AEW. He's going to be part of a commentary team for something, and they said that he occasionally they'll have him wrestle because he can still kind of work in the ring, especially with the incredible shape that he's in. And he announced on AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday that a Hall of Fame level talent is coming to the pay-per-view. Now, at the time that we're recording this, that pay-per-view is tonight. So by the time this comes out, this pay-per-view have already passed. So at the time, I'm going to say we don't know who the mystery guy is. There's been rumors flooding the internet, and Brock Lesnar's name has come up.
Oh my gosh!
Of Brock going to AEW.
Maybe that's why because I'm thinking even if they're in renegotiation, they still want to make money off t-shirts and hats and everything else that was on the site. Why would they pull all of his merchandise? This is why he's going to AEW. It all makes sense now. There's no other reason they'd pull his merchandise.
Well, that's one name that came up, but there's several others, but Brock is one of them.
No, that's it. Put your money on it.
Is CM Punk. Although Punk has said is denying that that's happening.
He's done. He's made so much money. Do you really think he wants to go back and hurt his neck?
No, I don't think so. But I think if it was AEW, maybe because
just to stick it to Vince.
Yes, but even though he has said that if Vince, he's not going to call Vince looking for a job, but if Vince or Triple H called him, he'd pick up the phone and talk. And I've heard Buff Bagwell say that before. When people asked him if he would go to AEW, he said, look, and he told me this. He said, if they call me, I'll take a meeting, but I'm not going to say anything I'm not going to call them because he said, if you call the company first, they have the leverage.
Of course. That's why you never give your price first.
You wait till they call you. So Buff said, if they call me, I'll pick up the phone, I'll answer. And if we can make a deal, I'll go. So he's not saying he'll never go there, but they have to call him. And CM Punk's probably the same way with WWE. But so he's one rumor. The other two rumors I've heard is Kurt Angle. Because there's a video that came out recently on Instagram. I think it was Kurt Angle's Instagram where he's lacing up his boots.
I saw that. Yeah.
So there's talk of maybe being Kurt Angle. And then on Cornette's podcast, they threw out another possible name that I didn't even think of. And with how angry he's been on Twitter with Vince recently, I think it could make sense. Mick Foley is another name that's come up in conversation.
I see Foley staying true to WWE. I feel like he understands where his bread is buttered.
Yeah. So, but those are names that have been popped up like Hall of Fame level talent. We're just hoping that it's a big name and not just some random Japanese flippy dippy guy that they found that, oh, he's a Hall of Fame worthy champion from this Japanese promotion that none of you have heard of. But Kenny Omega knows all about it because that's where all his friends live. You'll know if it happens because I'll be on the Boochcast cussing up a storm. So, but anyway, those are potential. So it could be that Brock's either going to face Lashley, go to AEW, or he might not do anything. But those have been the rumors going around about Brock. He's either facing Lashley at WrestleMania, or he's going to AEW, or there's talk that he might be using AEW as leverage to have Vince cough up more money. Because
that's smart. Yeah.
Like I remember a long time ago, they were telling about right around the time of the Montreal screw job, Hogan, and when Hollywood Hogan was in WCW as like Hollywood Hogan with the NWO, he had serious up to the midnight hour talks about leaving WCW and coming back to WWE. And they were thinking about maybe inserting him into that equation since Brett was being difficult wanting to drop the belt to Shawn, which was justifiable because Shawn back then, Shawn was a dick. But so there was talks about that. But then they found out later Hogan was having those talks, but even though he would have went back to WWE if they asked, at the time he was mostly doing it to get Ted Turner to cough up more dough. And it worked because when he found out Hogan was going back to WWE, Ted Turner opened that checkbook and Hogan got some big fat payday out of that. So sometimes they do that. Wrestlers will do that. They'll have talks with other people to get leverage.
No, that does make sense. And I mean, look, it's a business. At the end of the day, it could be hurt or not hurt, you know. But we are very, very close to Fastlane coming up in just 2 weeks time here. We got a lot to get to in the meantime. Currently, there's only 2 matches on the card. Too early to make predictions, obviously.
Yeah, we'll save that for the next episode.
We'll save that for sure, but we'll get together before that. But we never, ever like to leave an episode of the Male Soap Opera Moment without saying a couple key things, one of which is have a nice day.
The other is bang, bang.